Baruch Halevi, aka B, from the Defiant Spirit. You can tell I'm outside beautiful, lovely Omaha, Nebraska, where I'm broadcasting today about Enneagram, Enneagram 1, the Reformer. Now, I get asked all the time, how does one tell their Enneagram type? I discourage you from taking a cheap test. I do offer a very expensive, not very, but relatively expensive one, but you don't need to take a test. Don't take a bad test. It's worthless. It's actually misleading and leads you down the wrong path. All you need to discover your number is you. You're the one who has to know you and decide which one speaks to you. Now remember, all 9 numbers are within you. They are survival strategies, they're basic energies, but you do have one core type that is your go-to survival strategy. But you don't have to live, excuse me, in survival. You can stop surviving or reacting, as Dr. Viktor Frankl would say, and start thriving. Choose your response. Now, here's the work of an Enneagram 1, the reformer, sometimes called the perfectionist, doesn't matter, different names out there, but the Enneagram 1 in all systems is always the same. Enneagram 1 is all about perfection. It doesn't mean the other 8 types don't care about perfection, don't want perfection, don't strive towards perfection. Some do, some don't. It doesn't mean that Enneagram 1s are always in perfection, being perfect, or striving for it. It just means it's their why, it's their oxygen. If you want to know if you're a 1, then just get into the realm of perfection, trying to be perfect. So when somebody is longing to be perfect, talking about perfection, you can tell they're a 1. You can tell they're a 1 when it's not perfect and they become more critical, agitated, even angry. Oftentimes, 1s don't know they're angry. They'll repress their anger. Unlike me, I'm an 8 and people know I'm angry. I know I'm angry. I express it. 1s will repress it. But it's usually around perfection. They live with so much pressure on themselves to be perfect. And the challenge with perfection is, of course, nobody's perfect. Nothing is perfect. The moment you get something to be quote unquote perfect, it's off and running, changing, devolving, whatever it is. And it can be deeply frustrating for an Enneagram 1, the reformer, the perfectionist, if in fact they don't come to terms with that's what they're longing for. That's what they're trying to do, to perfect others, to perfect the system, the situation, but most of all, themselves. So that's really the motivation of a 1. Now they'll take it out on systems, so they'll be very diligent. They'll become very detail oriented. That's one way you know you're with a 1. It doesn't mean they're detail oriented around everything. So I have a son who's a 1, God love him, and his car is an absolute disaster, but his bedroom is always immaculate. So it's where he places his attention. What he has decided is the focus of his perfectionism. 1s will also do the opposite. When things becomes imperfect, it can be overwhelming. I have a 1 that I love dearly and I work with who has legal pads. He writes down all the tasks, all the duties, all the responsibilities, a very big one word. And when it gets to be too much, he'll just shut down. So 1s will become overwhelmed by all the details, all the things that need to be done, and they can go the opposite direction of, instead of diligence or perfectionism, they just go away. They always come back. I haven't met a 1 yet who hasn't returned at some point in their life to the table, because 1s take responsibility incredibly serious. Look, they're the most responsible people I know. Yes, other types, other people can be responsible, but 1s have this constant chatter in their head to be the good boy, to be the good girl. And they can dull it, they can mute it, they can try and make it go away for a while. It always comes back. So 1s are just good people. Eventually, it comes out. I want a 1 when I'm getting on an airplane and I know that the pilot is an Enneagram type. God love you 7s, you 8s. I want a 1 to make sure everything is in its proper order, to make sure we perfectly get to our destination. I don't want like sort of, I want perfect. I want my surgeon to be a 1. I want my accountant to be a 1. These are areas where black and white is really what you got to think about. They live their world in black and white. Shades of gray, not so much. Now, Their work is to understand that most of life is shades of gray, and we can't live in black and white. However, there are certain areas where you do want black and white, and that's where ones shine. Detail, diligent, responsible, above all, they want to be good. They strive for perfection, and their work, your work is, if you're a one, is to remind yourself that sometimes it's just about being good enough. That's really the sort of gist or the essence of an Enneagram 1. If you think you might be an Enneagram 1, jump over to defiantspirit.org. You can read more about the Enneagram 1. You can read more about all the types. I have a new program coming out called Discover Your Number. It's free. It's an alternative to the Enneagram test. But if you want a really great test, I'm also happy to talk to you about that. Defiantspirit.org. Until the next time, defy your number and live your spirit.